Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. It's Terry and this is going to be a video more or less talking about orchids in my collection that are perennial or not perennial. They're terminally failures, which for some reason this time around they've gotten a little more favorable results. And these are my most difficult orchids. But they are also orchids that I plan on having in my collection or wanting to. So that means that it will be very hard for me to give up. Now, the first group of these orchids are Paphinias. And I have two, and they are both Paphinia majestic, which is a hybrid between Herreri and cristata. Now, I have them planted in pure sphagnum, and then I have a little bit of live moss as well. You see there's a new growth. As I said, I've had these for about a year. And both of these came with bloom spikes that blasted. And we are talking about Paphinia, which is Paphinia, and classified as subtribe Stanhopinae. Maxillarii basically is classification, which I think it's more of a Stanhope type, but because it does have some maxillary in it, that does add a little bit of a twist. Maxillarias do prefer it to be moist, as do Stanhopea types, but there is a difference. Maxillarias like to be perfectly drained. They don't want to be sitting in wet media, whereas Stanhopeas, because they like to be planted or potted up in sphagnum moss, because they prefer a very wet environment, wet, humid, and airy environment. Specifically, air movement, moisture, and humidity. In that regard, they're almost closer to Oncidium types due to the fact that their leaves are very prone to wrinkling, and insects love the leaves, and they're just very susceptible to light, the effects of light and nutrients. So you can really tell when they're not getting clear, pure water. Paphinia is like more of a pure water to begin with, because they come from more along the slopes, going into the mountainous regions. So they prefer those conditions. So a few years ago, I did try a little bit of an experiment with a group of Paphinias, species and hybrids, with minimal success. I did somehow bloom Paphinia majestic, which is the one that I have. I have two of them, Paphinia majestics, that are bloom size that are doing pretty well. Better than any that I've ever had, meaning that they are putting up new growths. The last one that I had aborted its bloom spikes, but still, it is still alive, and it's been a year. So that's why I'm sort of featuring them alongside with the Epidendrum. But anyway, to give you more of the information, and this is all from AOS, they are epiphytes or rarely terrestrial. Flowers are large for the plants, very showy, laxly pendant and cupped. The distribution is largely South America, Costa Rica to Peru, Trinidad, and then, of course, grow Paphinia in small baskets with epiphytic mixture that includes moisture-retaining components. Now, as far as that epiphytic mixture, I have been putting them in the Phalaenopsis mix, which has leca. It's got some tree fern fiber, and it's got some sphagnum. It's got maybe a little cocoa husk, and it's got some bark. So it's got, or pumice. So it's got things that, it's got a moisture retaining media, but it also does allow air pockets to form so that the media does get some drying out, which is the difference in maxillarias and stanhopias. Medium light levels, as with all stanhopias, but these being that they're a little bit more tender in their cultural requirements, they like cool to intermediate, more intermediate, I would say, and steady watering throughout the year and very high humidity. It does say Paphinia are short-lived in cultivation and do not appear to tolerate repotting other than when new growth is visible or overpotting in general. So, yeah, you really want to put them in only, if you do repot them, they should come in only a pot where they can fit in it comfortable, or to allow for one more season of growth. These plants prefer to be root bound like stanhopias do. And that means that their roots are getting plenty of moisture from the sphagnum moss and nutrients, and are making the pseudobulbs plump and not wrinkly, which will ensure you to get some bloom spikes generally. Okay, and this is the other. Of two, it is doing better than the other, as evidenced by the bigger, healthier growths. You do see some failures of previous aborted growths, but currently I have two going on this plant, which is bloom size, as I've said. Again, potted up in pure sphagnum, which gets a yearly repot, and live moss. Unlike stanhopias, Paphinias spikes are like gongoras. They will snake across the top of the media until they find the ledge, and then will cascade or become pendant. So there is no need to pot them up in baskets as you would for stanhopias like this. And as I've said, they want to be in the smallest as possible. They don't like to be overpotted, and this one is a bit overpotted. I have them here in dappled sun, mostly shade, but they do get a fair amount of afternoon sun from the west end of the porch. And as I said, they have been getting soaks in rainwater, and really I don't let them dry out. I water them before they dry out. So that's another good thing. Now, I'm sure that you aren't expecting this, but this is a bad thing. And since I'm transparent, I am showing it to you, and here it is. This is my gigantea, Phalaenopsis gigantea, that I had repotted it. Now, it looks horrible, but I am somewhat encouraged by the roots that I see. How there is some continual uptake of moisture, so there is some hope. But this is the plant that I had just repotted or remounted. Yeah, I potted it, but it is hanging as a mount, sort of to replicate how they are in nature. But unfortunately, I had left them soaking overnight, and I think they got a bit too much. And since then, it has just been a slow decline, but there is still hope. But there again, I am keeping my eye out for more healthier, even though I'm not giving up on this one, just in case, because these can be expensive, and when you want bloom-sized specimens, and they're out there, if you want to pay for them, they are in short supply, so you get the drift. But hopefully this will pull through. I have my doubts, but this is a forever plant, Phalaenopsis gigantea. As you know, I cannot go back from when I had that huge, ginormous one that really spoiled me, and I ended up losing it when my greenhouse heater died in the winter a few years back. So since that got me hooked, I can't go back, as I said again, and these are forever bucket list plants, and I know I'm repeating myself. This is a Borneo species, the largest Phalaenopsis in nature, or it is in nature. Gigantea, hence the leaves that can be 3 feet long and 6 inches to a foot wide. And they do produce those very long, green, thick inflorescence that slowly produce flowers successively over years. But it's really annually. They do generally end of winter going into spring. And they are slightly fragrant, and they are very colorful and can be striped in very colorful patterns. So that's gigantea. Gigantea, as far as cultural wise, they do like a little bit more sun and water as they're growing than typical Phalaenopsis. So that's all I have to say about that. Hello, and this is a trouble plant for me, and none other than, hopefully you're not tired of me talking and trying with this plant, but maybe this will be the last time. And this is Epidendrum coronatum. Okay, and then here we come to, hopefully you're not sick and tired of me talking about this species, but this is Epidendrum coronatum, which is known as the crown-like epidendrum. You see there, it likes warmish down into intermediate conditions, and then it takes partial sun, found in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Brazil, in rainforests, on trunks and branches of trees, and occasionally on rocky slopes at low elevations to intermediate, as I said, is a large-sized epiphytic or lithophytic reed stem species. It blooms in the late winter into early spring, although this says, it does say blooms in the spring. On terminally arching pendant, many flowered inflorescence that arises at the apex on a mature reed stem cane, and the flowers are simultaneously opening, and they do have a daytime scent, which says it is of green tea, and in the daytime, and then at night, scent of lemon, which makes it very appealing to me. We love a lemon. And there is a flower. And I got this at Redlands as a pre-order. And so far so good. I have it in a pot. It was bare root. I have it in a pot with a mixture of, in the bottom of it, there is some leca to cover the drainage hole, and then around that is some sphagnum moss, and then around that is bark, leca, and pumice, and some charcoal. And I have that sitting in a clear dish to capture the water. And besides that, it is potted up in terracotta, which also helps with maintaining a humid environment around the inside of the pot and around the roots, and maintaining sort of a buoyant, keeps the pot a little bit more on the moisture side from drying out too quickly. And plus, as I said, it's sitting in that water. And besides this one cane, it really hasn't lost many leaves. I have it staked up, but so far it seems to be, that's a spider, seems to be producing leaves from the top. So, fingers crossed on that. I have tried everything with this plant, as I've said already, and it's been documented. This is the least stressed out bare root division that I've had so far. I've had taller ones and I've had smaller ones. And this one probably had the most roots and has the least amount of visible stress. So this will be a bucket list, no, not a bucket list, but it is a forever desired orchid. One that I haven't given up yet, and one that seems to be having a bit of success at the moment. But again, it's one that I don't talk about often, and it would be considered one of my more difficult orchids in my collection, especially since I have a long history with this species. And that's it on that one.
Striving for truth and not somebody else dictating to you how to do your thing, which you know how to do better than anybody else.